First Light.
Now, on Monday morning, France will have a new president. The two candidates, far-right leader Marine Le Pen and centrist Emmanuel Macron, clashed in their first and only televised debate overnight. And Le Pen has since fallen behind a little in the opinion polls. But here's the thing. Millions of voters in France, millions, are still undecided. Let's talk to international analyst Geoffrey Miller from the Democracy Project. Good morning, Geoffrey.
Good morning, Rachel.
What are the polls saying? Can Marine Le Pen win on Sunday?
Well, Emmanuel Macron has around a 10% lead in the polls now. It's widened slightly, so he's at around 55%. Marine Le Pen's around 45%. But that's still very close by French standards. Macron won by about 30 points over Le Pen back in 2017 after she had a disastrous TV debate back then. And it's a lot closer now. Her performance in the debate yesterday was fine by all accounts. There were differing opinions about who won, but it certainly wasn't a disaster the way it was. So 10% is still quite small. And a lot of the result, I think, will come down to turnout because Macron really is a centre-right candidate based on his program and what he's done over the last 5 years. He's done a lot of economic reforms. Marine Le Pen is a far-right candidate. If you're on the left and the left-wing candidates were knocked out in the first round, where do you actually go? I guess the equivalent would be in New Zealand asking left-wing voters to choose between, say, Christopher Luxon and David Seymour. A lot of left-wing voters may decide, well, I'd rather not have either of them and stay home. Some will hold their nose and vote for Macron, of course. But the left-wing candidate, the major one in the first round, did not endorse and has not endorsed Macron yet. And has only said don't vote for Le Pen, and some of those voters may interpret that advice rather liberally.
Yeah, indeed. What would Le Pen do? It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If she became the new French president on Sunday, what does she stand for today?
Well, she's moderated her image a lot, and starting even with her party's name. It was the National Front. It's now called National Rally. And, in previous campaigns, in the last campaign, she promised a Frexit, taking France out of the European Union. This time around, she's dropped that and says that we will change the EU from the inside instead and give French citizens preference over EU citizens generally and all kinds of other things, border controls, for example. Things are not really compatible with the EU, but it's had the effect of taking that EU exit off the agenda for the most part, and instead she's focused a lot on cost of living issues. France, like the rest of the world, like New Zealand, is facing really high inflation and increased inequality as a result of the pandemic and what's happening in Ukraine at the moment. And she's promised to heavily reduce France's equivalent of GST on energy, and of course energy costs have been skyrocketing, particularly as a result of the war in Ukraine. So she's been quite populist in many ways. She's promising a wealth tax, which is not something you associate with the far right. And she's really picking up, I think, a lot of disaffected voters from across the spectrum. It's contrasting quite sharply with Macron, based both on his economic program and also the fact that Macron's been very busy with international politics recently, going the diplomatic route and to try and get a resolution on the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, he's really played this quite strongly, and I think I can see what he's trying to do. He's trying very much to look like he's the statesman. He's all over Ukraine, and that's really coming through in his campaign, isn't it, as the incumbent?
It is, and he's played the statesman. He didn't really bother campaigning until the second round. Now, he did very little campaigning as such before the first round. And Le Pen likes to paint Macron as being a bit arrogant, a bit aloof from the concerns of ordinary voters. She's focused on cost of living and rising prices in the supermarket. He's focused on Ukraine, and she's really making that contrast. And it has worked to some extent for her. As I say, it's still pretty close here, and I think she's been taken a lot more seriously by a lot more voters this time in France than back in 2017. She's seen as a more mainstream candidate now.
Geoffrey Miller from the Democracy Project, thank you for your analysis there on the French elections. We should have a result. France will have a new president on Monday morning, and we'll keep you across that on Today FM. It's coming up 18 minutes to 6.